first I want to introduce Michael Colaluca from Gallo.
Hello.
Hey, Michael. All right, then let me find my friend. Where is he? Where'd he go? Lee, where are you? I can't see. Where's Lee? I think we lost.
You got too many people on. That's a good problem.
Oh, there he is. Hold on. Let me unmute Lee. You got it?
Yeah.
Hey, Lee. Sorry about that.
Hey.
All right. And my good friend, John Gay from Service Distributing. All right. Sorry about this, guys. You can laugh at me. It's okay. I'm not good at this. Anyway, I can't figure it out, so we're just going to go with it.
I'm good now. Can you hear me?
Good.
There
Hey,
you go,
wait,
John.
John. Okay, sorry about that.
No, that's okay. Thank you.
All right, enough of that. So before we get into the wines for tonight, which I think are awesome and a lot of fun, just a little bit of news like we always do and give you a little bit of news on what's going on with us. Those of you who have been supporting the restaurant, thank you so much. We're going to be introducing an expanded menu on Monday. So we'll have a lot of your normal stuff. So we're going to be at like 75% of our full menu on Monday. And I've ordered from a party supply company a big 20 by 40 tent for the parking lot. So we'll be serving outside, hopefully when the state opens up again for phase 1. So that'll be something to look forward to for us. As far as the wine shop, we're still doing great with online. We've brought in a couple employees back. We've brought a couple part-timers, another full-timer back into the fold to kind of get us ready for reopening on the 1st of June, when we're going to be allowing people into the store 10 at a time to do some shopping. We still can't have you drink here, but we will let you come in and buy and say hi and all that. Safely, of course, right? All right, so having said that, let's move on to the wine. If you all got the message, we attached a link so you can download the tasting sheets for these wines. I don't know if any of you saw that or were able to do that. They're helpful, but if you haven't, then you can always go online and download them. We're gonna show them for you on the screen in a minute. Let's just get going. If you have your wines ready, I see Lee has them all lined up for us. We're gonna do New Zealand first, the French Rosé second. I believe it's E for España third. We're gonna move into Italy and then finish up with CA, which is California. So Michael, I will pass it on to you. Michael is the state manager for Virginia from Gallo Wines. So Gallo Wines, you might know, is not the jug wine anymore. It's more than that. It's an amazing portfolio with some really great stuff. And they always are very supportive of us, and I welcome them, guys. So Michael, I will let you take over. And I'm gonna share my screen and hopefully not screw it up.
Very good. Thank you so much, Arthur. Well, look, it's a pleasure to be here virtually with you guys. Obviously, I love coming into the store, and hopefully we can do it again soon. You know, when Arthur had sent me a note about wanting to do location series, I thought it was the perfect wine for what the occasion is. And I know we've been stuck at home and under shelter in place, and we haven't been able to experience traveling and a lot of different things. And what location series is all about is fun and travel and experiencing different parts of the world. And I think it's something we all miss greatly right now. So even though it may only be a virtual tasting tonight, hopefully we can experience some of the world here as we progress through. So what I'm going to do is talk a little bit about the background of the brand location series. And then Lee Cohen, who is our luxury portfolio specialist, is going to talk about Dave Phinney, who's the winemaker. Dave is one of the best winemakers in the world, just named Wine Enthusiast Winemaker of the Year. And then we're going to jump into the wine. So if you want to go forward a couple slides here, Arthur, we'll talk about the story itself here. And so really, the idea is, like we talked about, it's a flying winemaker approach. And you'll all know the distinctive labels here, New Zealand, but it's all about experiencing the places that these wines are coming from. And you know, Dave says it's a simple idea because it's just wine, the best wine you can make from that region. But in reality, it's very complex, and it's all about that authenticity of what you're getting. And you know, Dave talks about the fact that his job is to make wine in California, and then when he's not doing his job, what he does for fun is he goes makes wine everywhere else. So it's the life of a winemaker. You get to travel to France and Italy and Spain to go and make wine. So
Michael, real quick, for those of you who don't know who Dave Phinney is, you might know his old project under Orin Swift. And if you guys remember The Prisoner, which was so popular a couple years ago, they've sold it on. He doesn't have it anymore, but that's kind of what got him going. Right?
Correct. And so he's got his hands in a lot of different things. Location series, Orin Swift. He's got a brand called Department 66. He makes his own spirit. So the guy does a whole lot, and Lee will talk about that a little bit, but he is truly one of the best winemakers out there. And the beauty of Location series is that you can get his wines for under $25, which is a steal. So the number one question that comes up is, why these labels? What are these labels all about? You can move to the next slide, Arthur. So every one of the labels has letters on them. And when Dave tells the story, he was in France. He saw a taxi cab that had the F sticker that was on the back of it. And that kind of sparked this idea for Location series and creating wines from around the world that were unbounded, that weren't regulated by ADAs. They weren't limited to what you could or couldn't blend. He just wanted to make great wine from each one of those spots. And it started as that kind of concept or idea, and it kind of developed into a global brand for him. Really, the main goals were he wanted to keep it authentic. So he wanted to keep it true to the location. And that means going and tasting, going and touching the vines, going and touching the dirt, really getting hands-on, not just having somebody ship him some samples and throw a label on it. The other one is he didn't want it to be a gimmick. And for Dave, that was really important. And so that's why if you even hold the bottle, you can feel it's a heavier bottle. It uses real cork. Like, this is all part of that. Like, this isn't just a gimmick wine. This is really good wine with a kind of a neat idea. And then lastly was stylistically. So you'll notice these wines are non-vintaged. And on the back, there's a little number that says what lot it is. That kind of represents where we're at in the progression. But he really wanted to make sure that from a style standpoint, if you tasted the New Zealand 3 years ago, it was going to have the same style as you get now. And, for him, that was really important in terms of being able to just keep it consistent throughout the years. Because he said one of the worst things that can happen is somebody goes to their store, they buy something, they try it, and then it turns out that they love it, and then they can't get that same experience again. So stylistically, he wanted to keep it the same. And then you'll also notice it's just a very simple, clean label. And he makes Burgundy wines, and he talked about how you'd go to a store and the Burgundy section was confusing. And that was something that he wanted to avoid. He wanted to bring people into the wine category. So with that, that's kind of the story of Locations and the story of the label. And I'm going to let Lee talk a little bit about Dave and where he came from and some of his background before we jump into the wines. But certainly, I see some of you are outside. Please feel free to dive into New Zealand as we get to it soon here. Go ahead, Lee. Off to you.
Okay, great. So Dave's wine journey started back in 1995. He and a classmate decided to study abroad for a semester in Florence, Italy, and that's where Dave fell in love with wine. And he decided that when he was going to return back to school at the University of Arizona, instead of pursuing his studies and getting his master's in law, he said, you know what, I want to do something with wine, and I'm just going to finish up my degree and dive in head first. So he graduated from University of Arizona, and 4 days later he moved to the Napa Valley. And as he got there, he sent out 50 resumes to various different wineries looking for an opportunity. And the only person or only winery that responded was Robert Mondavi. And they offered him an interview for a night harvest position. So he shows up at the interview wearing a suit and tie, and they look at him and they go, you realize that this is just a night harvest position. And they said, listen, we're just going to give you a basic math test and a drug test. If you can pass both, the job is yours. So sure enough, he passes both with flying colors, and he shows up for his first day at work, and he realizes he's the only white guy in an all Latin crew. And these guys are busting it, and he's working hard as well, and he loves it day in and day out, or night in and night out. He's loving it. He's like, listen, if I'm going to work this hard, I want to do it for myself, and I want to make my own wine. So later on in that year, he buys 2 tons of Zinfandel grapes, and he makes his first wine, and it comes out horribly. And he realized that the grapes that he bought were from a really amazing vineyard, but he bought it from the wrong part of the vineyard. And he said, you know what? If I'm going to continue to make wine, I have to realize that it has to do with the grapes that are in the bottle, and I'm really going to focus on always sourcing the best fruit that I can. So he started Orin Swift in 1998, Orin being his father's middle name, and Swift being his mother's maiden name. And from there, he started, as Arthur was saying, he made The Prisoner, and that's what really got him off and running. In 2008, he sold Prisoner to the IDEAIS family, the folks that own Quintessa, and he signed a non-disclosure agreement that he could not make a Zinfandel-based wine for 8 years after he turned the Prisoner label over to the IDEAIS family. And fast forward, some of you may have seen a wine that he makes now, or he's made for the past couple of years. The first vintage was 2016. So he gave it to 8 years later, and he made a wine called 8 Years in the Desert, which is his first Zinfandel-based wine. So that's just kind of gives you the basic story of Dave Phinney. And I think a lot of his philosophy, a lot of his winemaking style really is apparent throughout all these wines, and he uses the same approach in everything that he does. So with that, I'm going to pass it back to Mike, and he's going to talk a little bit about the rosé. I think that's
real quick, guys. Dave sold The Prisoner to who was it first? They sold it to IDEAIS.
IDEAIS, yes.
For like 100 million.
Yeah, I think it was like 80 or 100 million or something.
The first sale was smaller, actually. His sale was I think it was in the 30s or 40s, and then they sold it to Constellation for a couple $100 million.
And then Constellation just sold it to who?
I believe Constellation still has it under the Prisoner Wine Company. That's their.
I heard they sold it for like 300 million in just like 2 years. But anyway, sorry, I don't mean to cut you. I thought that was an interesting.
Yeah, no.
All right, let's move on. Let's move on. Michael,
sure.
take us on. Let's finally drink some wine. Let's go.
Yeah, absolutely. So look, let's start off with New Zealand, and this is a bit of a change of pace for Dave. So Dave is known for these big, huge wines, and look, this is New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc, so it's a little bit more of a acid-driven, lighter style wine. Again, when you're talking New Zealand, you talk Marlborough, and Marlborough is where the best New Zealands in the world come from. About 80% of New Zealand wines come from Marlborough, so that's where Dave went and sourced this Marlborough New Zealand. Perfect for the days. I'm super jealous of everybody that's outside right now. You have the perfect wine for sitting outside in this 80-degree weather. It's crisp, it's refreshing. He sources from 2 different regions in Marlborough. One is the Wairua Valley, and the other is the Awatri Valley. Both give somewhat distinctive styles. The Wairua is more passion fruit, a little bit more grassy, and then the Awatri provides a little bit of that minerality and a little bit of that fruit, and the Pacific Ocean influence comes in there. So you'll notice it's 13.5% alcohol. This is low for Dave. It's probably normal or a little high for most New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs, but Dave's all about big, bold flavors, and I think you get a really nice, crisp, refreshing style of wine here from his first choice, the New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc.
Cheers.
Real easy drinker and just so refreshing, and I think it's just really well made and balanced. It's not too acidic. It has a little roundness to it. I think that's just because of the style that Dave likes.
For sure, and there's not a lot of the New Zealand Sauvignon Blancs be super grapefruit. This one is more of subdued. It's got more complex flavors. It's not just a grapefruit bomb. So again, you can't beat it in terms of this weather in the summer. And when you start thinking food and wine pairing, it's lobster and it's scallops and like pineapple chutney and really bright tropical fruit flavors to go with it. So just an awesome one. So next up, we're going to go to France, and we're going to jump into the rosé. And I would definitely, if you have some crackers or something, I'd probably suggest a little palate cleanser. When you go from a very acidic wine like the Sauvignon Blanc, and then anything after it, if it doesn't have that same acidity level, it's going to feel a little flabby. So, this wine has acidity, but it's not going to jump unless you kind of clean the palate a little bit after the New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. So I have some crackers here, definitely worthwhile. So the French Rosé, now we're starting to go more to the Dave style, right? 14.5% alcohol, it's 100% Grenache. And when you think French Rosé, if you're gonna make the best Rosé possible from France, you're gonna go to Provence. And so Dave goes down to southern France, he goes to Provence, and actually he's sourcing from one single vineyard site here. So whereas most of these wines are taking different grapes from different locations and kind of putting them all together to create one harmonious blend, this one is 100% Grenache, all from that single vineyard, because it really is quintessential French Rosé. So on the nose there, you get some of those strawberries and those bright fruit flavors, not quite as acidic as the Sauvignon Blanc we just tasted. A little bit higher alcohol content, a little bit more body to it. Old vine, 100% Grenache old vine, so you get more of that concentrated fruit flavor. And rosés are extremely popular now, and Dave makes it his own way, though. He makes it a little fuller and a little bigger style.
Rosé all day, buddy.
I'm with you on that.
No better choice. No better choice.
So far, so good, everyone. What do you think with the white and the rosé? Good stuff. I'm going to take one little break, quick second to say a quick hello to our newest wine club members, Jim and Grace. Hi, guys. They stopped by the store today to get some wine, and then within 5 or 6 minutes of chatting, they said, "Sign me up." It's nice to see them on the call here. Thanks, guys.
Love it.
Welcome.
You're welcome. Arthur was a great salesman, so we couldn't pass it up.
Excellent.
Thanks, Jim.
Excellent.
All right, so here we go. Should we move on to the next wine?
Yeah, let's go ahead.
Yes.
All right, very good. E.
So, next up, we're going to go E, and everybody always wonders, what is E? Well, look, in Spanish, España, Spain starts with E, so this is Spanish red. And now we start getting into the true heart of what Locations is all about in terms of pulling from all sorts of different regions and all sorts of different grapes to create one harmonious bottle. And so for this one, Dave sources from 5 different regions, all across Spain, predominantly Grenache and Tempranillo, but he does have a few other varietals mixed in there. And when we talked in the beginning, the importance of Locations was to keep it authentic and to not be gimmicky. And Dave is not a big score person. He doesn't care about what somebody thinks about his wines. He just wants to make the best wine that he can make. And this was an exception, though. In order for this project to work, it had to not be considered gimmicky. So his first Spain, he put in for Parker to get reviewed, and it got 93 points. And for him, that was huge because it gave some credence to this idea and this concept that he was trying to create here. And when we talk about authenticity, in the first 6 months to create this wine, he went to Spain 8 times and went all around Spain. Some trips 10 days long, going to 10 different spots in Spain. I think he had a lot of fun with it. If you know Dave, he's a fun guy and he likes to enjoy himself. But at the same time, he kept it really rooted in what Spanish wine is all about. So when you smell this wine, you get that rich nose. There's a lot of bright fruits and plums and some darker fruits. Some spices in there as well. It's really that Grenache and that Tempranillo coming through in terms of that plum and spice flavors. And this is the entrance into the red wine. So it's not going to be as big as some of the wines that Lee's going to talk about, but it's certainly got a ton of flavor in it as well.
Michael, let me ask you something. So he went over to Spain and he went to visit different regions to pick up some Grenache, some Tempranillo, Monastrell. He got all this fruit. Where did he send it to? Where did it go to? Where is there a winery he was using?
So he works with local growers and he works with a local winery in each location. So he's making that wine in Spain using whatever. Now he may make them in all the different regions and then blend them in Spain, but he is staying in the country to make the wine. And that all goes back to this authentic piece that he really wanted to capture. This wasn't something where he's throwing it in a bladder and sending it back to Modesto, California, and then making it there. He enjoys the process, and it's all about being true to Spain. And, for this Spain, I've got number 7 here on the back. I don't know, everybody may have a little different one depending on when you bought, but every one of those is going to have this similar style and the similar kind of flavor profile. And that's because he's doing it all there, and he's making sure that he's a part of the process from the beginning to end. So.
Oh, sorry.
No, that's fine. I'm actually going to pass it over to Lee, and Lee's going to take you on the trip for the next couple of wines.
And just as a note, if you haven't had the Orin Swift wines before, the alcohol ABV, it gets up there. The E's at 15, and we'll see the Italy's at 15 too. He doesn't mess around. He extracts as much flavor and color out of the grapes as he can, and that's just his style. But I digress. Lee, let's talk about the Italian.
So the thing that really stands out to me when Dave is making wine from what's considered the old world, he applies a lot of his new world style into the wine, making it more fit for our palates than necessarily, I would say, for the Italian palate, where it's very earthy and funky. Although it does have some of those characteristics, I think this wine in particular really shows to me what you can do with Italian varietals and make it in such a new world style that it speaks true to what Dave has been doing. So this is a blend of Negro Amaro, which you find this variety native to southern Italy, grown almost exclusively in Puglia and Salentino, which is visualizes the heel of Italy. And that lends a really deep in color, rustic, perfumed, and earthy note. The other varietal in this is Barbera. So this is the third most widely planted varietal in Italy behind Sangiovese and Montepulciano. So this lends some deep color, some low tannin, and bright acidity. This varietal really brightens this wine up and lifts it, and gives it some life. And then the last varietal that he uses in this wine is Nero Diavola. So this is the most important grape for wine in Sicily. It's compared to New World Shirazes. So it has that inky, dark, purple, peppery note to it, and a lot of plum. So I think when you drink this wine, you get a lot of those qualities from all three of the varietals. And it's really unique to see these blended together to make this type of wine. It's not, I would say, dry and tannic. It's really nice and mouth coating. The fruit is rich and bright, but it's not hitting you over the head like super jammy, like some of the other wines.
One thing I'd like to note about this wine and the E, and in fact the F, which we don't have now, is that he's making his wines from Europe, from an old world region that don't necessarily taste like an old world wine. It has that earthiness that you might find in those regions, but it's got the fruit that we love on this side of the world, and I think that's what makes him really appealing.
Definitely, I love this wine. This is delicious.
It's very easy to drink. I mean, right now, it is a delicious wine.
And he's doing 10 months of aging in both of the E and the I see. Are they using French oak barrels?
Yes, using French oak, mostly used barrels. Mm-hmm.
Cool. All right, we're right on time. We've got about 7 minutes left. You ready to move on to California? Back to
Yep. The last wine that we have is the California Red. So this is a blend of Cabernet Sauvignon, Petit Syrah, Zinfandel, and Syrah. He's sourcing fruit from Napa, Sonoma, Mendocino County in the Sierra foothills. So the thing that I love about this wine is it shows the diversity of what California can really lend to a red blend. Knowing that Napa, you have fruit that typically sits on the valley floor and gets really concentrated and deep and dark. Then Sonoma and Mendocino, it's a little bit of a cooler climate, so the wines are going to be brighter, more acid driven. I think it really plays to allowing Dave to almost be like an artist, where you have a palette of colors. You can source grapes from up and down all across California and really put together something unique and different, but really serves to his style as well. This, I think, got 92 points as well from Wine Enthusiast. So this is another or 91 points actually, another one of those high scoring wines. And I think I mean, value wise, you can't go wrong with this wine. It's incredible.
I agree. 15.5% ABV coming up. You know, a nice little note about these wines being non-vintage. To get points like this, it's pretty rare to find points assessed to non-vintage wines. It just talks about the consistency of what he's doing and the quality of the fruit that he's finding. I would presume that his experience and his time out in California and the fact that he is kind of a hotshot out there wants grape growers to associate with him, so he can have a pick of what he wants. So
for sure. And,
thumbs up on this one, everyone. Whoever's drinking it. Not bad, right?
Thumbs up.
Thumbs up. Good stuff. All right. Does anybody have any questions that we can throw to these guys?
Yes, I have a question. What do the numbers on the labels indicate?
So those are going to be essentially the lot. So it's not going to be vintage dated like a 2017 or 2018, but this is the 8th for the New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc. This is the 8th version of New Zealand Sauvignon Blanc he's made. So it's similar to a vintage process, but he might blend over multiple vintages, but this is the 8th iteration or the 8th lot for this particular wine.
I had a comment from Maureen Wood that said she loved the California wine.
Oh, good.
Arthur, I also had one from Jeannie, and I don't know, I mean, it's something you can handle later on, but it was about, what would the lineup cost for your members, I guess?
The wines are priced at $22.99 across the board, but if you're a wine club member, you get 10% off. So that times 5. I could do the math, but I'd get it wrong on the fly. All right. Any other questions? We're all good? Everybody happy with the choice of wines this week? I think they're really nice.
Well,
across the board, they're available all year round. I keep them in stock for the most part throughout the year, unless they run out, and we just have to wait for them to come back. But I plan on carrying these for a little while, at least through the summer, hopefully. So if you want to try any of these, come by. If you miss one of the ones that we didn't show, such as there's a WA, right, from Washington.
So
there's one from E, and there's also one from Texas as well, right?
So
I see Walt's holding up the Texas label.
So there are some limited release ones. I believe Texas we have had in the past at your store, Arthur. Washington and Oregon are basically held to the northwest corner, and then there's a French red that we didn't try as well. And if you go back in time, you had a Corsica at one point, but that's going back a few years. So,
that's right. I remember that. Yeah, very good.
The one thing I'll say, just as we sign off here, and thank you, Arthur, for having us, is one of Dave's quotes is, if they grew grapes on the moon, I would go to the moon to make wine. And that's really encompasses what Location Series is all about. The guy will go wherever to find wine and make it.
So Michael, and perhaps Lee, I want you to just pledge to me that you're going to work very, very hard. And you too, John, I'm not letting you off the hook. If Dave does a tasting where he opens it up to merchants like myself, we are going to be at the top of that list.
You certainly are. I promise you that.
Arthur,
Yes.
you are. I thank you for what you do for us as well. And I thank all your guests coming on. I appreciate it. And I hope everyone had a good time and enjoyed the wines.
They're the best, guys. They really are. So really quick, a big thank you to the guys, Mike, Lee, and John for joining us.
Thank you.
And to Tracy for getting these wines to us as well. We work with her directly. Hi, Tracy.
Hi.
And I want to thank you all for taking your time again on this beautiful day. It's so great to have you all here, and I get to see you for 30 to 40 minutes like in my face as opposed to through the window. But that's going to change soon, hopefully. Real quick, I said this last week. We have a minute left, so I'm going to tell you about it. If you want to try wines that are a bit more upscale, we have something called the Collectors Club, which is the If You Insist Club. That runs $225 a quarter. And June is the month that we're running it. So if you want 2 high-end premium wines, talking about over $100 a piece, and a special invitation to a members-only tasting that we're going to do, we are going to do one this time. In some way. I'm planning for June 10th, and I'll reach out to you guys. please sign up and tell us you want to switch to that club before the end of the month, so we can get you in. I think we've got about 43 club members right now, and they love it. I hope they do. I think they do. The wines are spectacular. So on behalf of myself and Dan, who's in the corner there, and Candace, who's here helping out as well, I want to say thank you, and we will see you next time. Cheers.
Thank you, Arthur.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Great holiday weekend.
Bye.
Let everybody see each other.
Hey, everybody.
All right.
We unmute everybody. So
Thank
we can all
you.
applaud.
Cheers.
Thank you.
Yay. All right. Adios, everyone. Have a good one.
Cheers.
Bye.
Cheers.
Memorial Day.
Ciao.